I hope everybody had a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. I didn't start that way, but we'll get back. I'm all business today. All right, so I'll call the roll to vote. Robin Sue,
Approve.
Marie,
Approve.
Lily. Her thumb is up.
Approve, sorry.
Dwayne,
Approve.
and I approve. That's all in favor. And I did not see any links, so I'm assuming I have no public comment.
Nothing at this time, Christie.
All right, and then I'm going to roll it right over to Barb, who I'm sure has lots of info for us, a big change over the last couple of days. So it's all yours.
All right. You should know that the staff is doing very well. Can you guys see me? I'm just noticing that my iPad's is funky.
Now we can. You were a little sideways.
Huh. It's still saying waiting, so I don't know what's going on. Sorry. So things are going very well. The staff is doing an amazing job getting materials ready for students to pick up tomorrow. We are on track so that we will have everything ready between 2 and 4:30 tomorrow for parents to pick up. We are making arrangements now for parents to notify us if they are unable to get the materials, and we will get them to them so that everybody will be ready to set and go on Wednesday. So that's the good news. We have had, I've had two parents contact me, one expressing frustration and one just concern about her child's education. But, you know, certainly understanding what's going on and, you know, being helpful. So that's that. COVID sentinel testing, we're still doing 20% of the staff. We have 2 different cohorts of 10. And so every Monday, 10 folks are swabbed and we have the results back by Wednesday. Staff have received a form to sign up for the COVID vaccine when it's available. We'll be able to deploy it very quickly because they will have already gone through the sign up space. New hires, we're advertising for additional ed tech for special ed. We have a new student joining us that requires a one-on-one. Edith Shriver Castagna has resigned and will be joining MDES, so we'll actually be looking for 2 ed techs, I should say. School culture, we had pajama day, dress alike, and 12 days of CES during December, and really tried to work with school spirit, and I think it worked well. Heather put together our 12 days of celebration and we had fun doing it. Second semester changes, as of today, 9 people would like to be added to in-person and 1 student would like to be added to virtual academy. So there's not a huge change there. We may not be able to accommodate all of the 3rd grade requests at this point, but we're looking into it. The town halls, the hospital continues to host monthly town halls. And as you're, I'm sure, aware, the hospital was instrumental in helping us, you know, make proposals to the school committee as far as the whether or not to go into remote learning at this point. I think it was a good decision. And I would just say teachers and students and families continue to rise to the challenges of COVID education. It's a very different way of doing education. We're learning on a daily basis. I do think we're getting better at it each and every time we're forced to use the remote learning. But I would also say we are one of the lucky ones in the sense that there aren't many communities that are offering 5 full days or, you know, starting this week, 4.5 days of instruction. Many of the schools still are in hybrid mode where kids are getting basically 2.5 days of instruction. So I feel incredibly grateful that we're able to keep the schools open full time. I am thrilled that all of our students are being taught by certified instructors in their content areas. So I think we have a lot of positives here. We're doing more outside education. Again, we've revamped our specials into 3-week rotations, which have worked well. Extracurricular updates. Brian Dion continues to work with Bunkie and the AOS middle school ADs to establish the protocols for winter sports. At this point, things are on hold until January 19th, at which point we hope the protocols will be in place to have at least skill drills and possibly some interactive events. Let's see, professional development. You should know that common studies have been scheduled with Julie Meltzer for the Thursdays during the early release afternoons. Each grade level will have 2 between January and June. PTSA raised and supplied over $5,000 in gift cards for 30 families during their holidays. It was an amazing effort and really well received, as you can imagine, by community. We continue to have our community MDI resources, the building and maintenance. We continue to clean and organize and build both inside and outside. We are making small meeting areas in some of the classrooms for some of our special needs students. We continue to receive PPE from the state. The meal service, we continue to do an amazing job. I think Tina and her staff. As of this morning, we had 48 students sign up to receive boxes of food during this remote time, which is in addition to the 42 that are already picking up on Wednesdays during virtual time. And technology, the new outside security camera system has been installed, and we continue to enhance our online learning with iPads and stands and document cameras, etc. So that is where we're at.
Great. I just want to follow up real quick. I wanted to follow up and say, to the parent who called you and was frustrated and concerned. I think we're all frustrated, school board members and administrators and teachers, and we're all concerned about our kids' education. But it does help to remember that we are in a pandemic and we're all, we're doing the best we can. And I just want to say publicly too that, when Mark, we had a board chair meeting. I reached out, with an email to our board, and I think none of these decisions are made, lightly, and they're made with input from so many people that I just hope everyone is aware of that obviously, this jump back and forth don't happen on a whim. And I also wanted to say during teacher appreciation or the Connors Appreciation Week that Heather put together, one of the days was thank your board members. And I got these wonderful cards for each one of you from Mrs. Beth Gilman's class. And there's a personal one for each one of you. But we were quarantined here over Christmas in our house, so they're still here. But I'm off of quarantine, and I will drop them off. But they're very sweet. So thank you to the class. And Lily.
I just have a question, Barb. In the professional development section that you talked about, what are common studies?
Common studies are when teachers from across the district at either a certain grade level like 3rd grade or a content level like math get together and talk about what they're doing, with the curriculum, any changes, any concerns, any new materials that they're using, things like that.
Okay, I was just concerned that, we set aside that time for prep and all that, but that sounds like exactly what they want. But so
it is, and it's and Lily, I should have mentioned that it's optional. Okay. I would expect that our teachers would partake in it because they do find them to be useful. But I would also say that they are optional, and we're going to work with folks.
Well, I'm sure it's really very valuable time. I'm just worried about adding anything else that we're asking our teachers to do. So, but that sounds like a
right.
Thank you.
And this is a huge decrease from what it has been in the past. It had been, one day every 3 months or a half day every, 6 weeks. So this is a real change.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the principal report? Dwayne?
Yeah, Barb, did they give any indication when when you would start receiving the vaccine for the staff?
No, we really haven't. I wasn't expecting to even have forms ready, and going out. So Mark may be able to give you a better idea. He's been the one who's been the contact person.
Christy, may I? So, yeah, Dwayne, it's a great question. The short answer is no, but I think we're getting really close. And the reason I say that is we're working very closely with our partners, the hospital and others, and for them to ask. So we put out a survey that was through the hospital to all the staff. We encouraged everybody to do that. Put out another reminder today. As of this morning, I had, the hospital had 331 responses, which is good. And to put it in context, we're looking for about 450. So we did another nudge today. And the responses to the survey, it doesn't matter. We want all staff to respond, whether or not they plan to be vaccinated or not. We're not requiring it. We're encouraging it. But that survey is going to be helpful because it's going to be able to tier. When we talk about vaccinating staff, the governor has defined essential employees, educators as all of our folks, whether they be ed techs, bus drivers. So we're going to be looking at our most vulnerable population with educators, and that'll be age and any other chronic conditions. And then they'll tier it. It could come real quick. It could come, we could find out like that overnight, and then we need to do like a delayed start, or it could come in chunks. But I don't have an exact time, but I think we're getting really, really close. And I'm encouraged by that because it looked, I think the rollout's very different in different parts of the state and certainly in the nation.
Okay, thank you. And that's an impressive amount of people who have responded. I know with the hospital, it wasn't, some people had to be chased down type of thing just to respond, whether they want it or not. So thank you.
Anybody else have a question? All right, Barb, I'll let you roll in, I think, COVID relief fund money.
Just that the all of the money was spent by December 31st, and we're just in the process of cleaning up the books and things like that with the invoices and whatnot. So it was money well spent, and certainly very much appreciated.
And that money, that because that was not budgeted money, is that at your discretion to spend? I mean, obviously, you've kept us in the loop, but that's just like at the principal's discretion, correct?
Well, I would say at the building, we looked at what the building needs were through our operations team, and determined what we wanted to put emphasis on. And we did have to write descriptors as to what we were, asking for: additional personnel, overtime, additional, PPE, cleaning products, certain, just simple things like dividers and, supplies and things like that.
Barb had to, if I may, Christy, Barb had to do in a very extensive and really application, very tight window. And in addition to all the work that Nancy does and others, that was, doubled here because of a CRF. But it's a very rigorous process. It's tracked and accountable through the Maine Department of Education. It's federal money. So yes, it was at the discretion of Barb, and she used it very appropriately. But it's a very rigorous process to follow up on. So it wasn't freewheeling for anybody, because you had to come in and say what you were going to use it for. And then it's important to remember, it's a reimbursement model. The money just didn't come. Then they have to look at what you spent it on and then approve it, and then it comes back. So Nancy and Barb and everybody else, it's really important. This has been a ton of work for those guys.
But if somebody wanted to see what you spent, it's all documented, right? I mean, it's not something that we signed off on here, but like if members of the public or staff wanted to see what the money was spent on, they could go either to Nancy or to Barb and get that information, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Board members or
Yeah, and this is,
Yep.
has to be tracked and reconciled through the Maine Department of Education, and it's federal money and the United States Department of Education.
And then I don't have anything to report under the school committee chair. And so we can roll right into the budget.
Yeah.
And so you
Okay,
guys know, I forwarded a copy of the budget to Nina at the Islander. So she's watching on YouTube. So she's following
Oh,
along.
great.
with-
Okay, thank you for doing that. I'm just getting to emails now and saw that. So everybody should have received a draft 3. Does everyone have that? Okay, so there hasn't been any change to anything that we recommended, with the exception that we did take in to account an 8% projected rate for the Blue Cross Blue Shield across the board. And we put in the asymptomatic testing for all staff, and you're going to see that under regular instruction. It's about 3/4 of the way down in a gray shaded box that will say 15,400. We've been told it's 200. It will be approximately $200 per staff member for however we're doing it. And so Nancy has figured 15,400 would be our share for all staff, not just teachers. So those are the only changes that we made. Again, we're looking at additional positions of a custodian, 2 teachers, and again, they might be classroom teachers because we certainly have a bubble going into 4th grade next year, and also into 2nd grade. But they also might be doing RTI. It's just going to depend on if we are in COVID or non-COVID. But we are definitely going to need that support. There's no way around it. And then we added an additional 20,000 to work with co-curricular supports. And then we're looking for additional money for outside areas, outside classroom, et cetera. So, and I would say to you, in order of preference, if we had to do that, it would be 2 classroom teachers, the custodian, followed by the co-curricular student supports and the outside areas.
I was looking, I mean, I think when you're looking at $50,000 over a $6 million budget, it's not going to save tons of money to cut that outside classroom money. But I know that we put a lot of the money that was donated to the school toward outside areas, and a lot of those COVID funds toward outside areas. And so
Yeah.
when I was looking through the budget, I was thinking, is this an area that we could, try to cut back and save on? But if you could give more information about what that money's for, would be good.
Sure. Well, we did receive a large, donation of $20,000 to establish, some more outside areas. And, we have 3 gazebos actually arriving tomorrow, outside gazebos that are sturdy so that they can go through the winter. But we're looking at, just trying to provide, a foundation for a substantial outside classroom. And I think it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of an $80,000 project. When you're looking at, a cement foundation and then, building the structure, et cetera. Again, I'm comfortable with cutting the 50,000 there and trying to find a different way of building it and using what we have. But that's where we're at. I mean, that is one area that students wouldn't suffer if we had to cut it.
And Barb, this might sound silly too, but with the whole renovation, new building, renovate, tear down, all that we're constantly delaying, would this $80,000 outside building be built somewhere where we wouldn't be tearing it down in 3 to 5
Right. No, that's, yeah. And that's a really good question, Christy.
Yeah.
And, until we have answers as far as what we're doing with the building, I think it's going to be really hard. you'll notice in the CIP, we just went really with generic, item of repair to Connors Emerson, and we figured we could do the Connors hallway if we needed to redo that. It's buckling right now. But again, it's until we make a decision as to whether we're going to go for a bond and try to either build new or renovate or whatever it is, it's going to be really hard to nail down budgets, especially with CIP. Any other questions or?
Marie. Go ahead. Marie.
Okay, so I had a couple questions. I know that the federal budget has been passed, and it looks like there's funds coming down the pipe again. It looks like they have similar parameters as the ones that we've received so far, the phase 1 and phase 2 ones we've received so far. It looks, and I know this can all change. It looks like, again, they can't pay for things that we've already got budgeted out, or, it's probably going to pay for things that we don't have, or that's going to help us get kids back in school, back in the classroom, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, I don't think there was anything. I don't know if it said anything about asymptomatic testing. I haven't read that far into it. But I guess I'm just thinking about, and I'm sure you've already thought of this, but what are the things that, we're about to pass the budget probably before the guidelines have really come down the pipe that were going to be helpful. So what are the things that we can foreshadow, that we can shift out, that we may feel okay about shifting out of this, whether it's
Budget.
Yeah, that we know at least can fit into the preliminary guidelines for the granting opportunities that are going to come later on. Because we also have seen, at least in Maine, like we've been lucky enough that the state actually brings that money down to the school level. And some states are not even doing that. They're keeping it at the Department of Education. So we're in like a really great scenario here. So I follow your lead, Barb. Anything that you can tell me that's going to get kids in the building or outside of the building, keep kids on campus, make sure they've got quality teachers, that they've got a small pod. I mean, I'm happy to sign up for it, even if it's going to be, I hate to say it, but even if something like that might change on the campus in 5 years. If we get 5 years or even 1 year out of getting more kids back in these buildings and back on this campus, learning from live teachers, I think that's money well spent. But on the other hand, I want to think about, what are those guidelines, and how, if we're about to pass this budget, you know what I mean? What are those things that you've been thinking about and maybe we haven't thought about yet?
Right. And it's really going to be hard, because if it's only between, if the new CRF funds are good from January until June, then really it's not going to do us any good for next year's budget, if you know what I mean, because what we're really looking at is personnel at this point. I mean, that's going to be our biggest push if we get more CRF funds, is being able to hire ed techs, being able to hire tutors, possibly additional teachers between now and June. I don't know enough about the CRF3 right now to know if it's projecting out for a full year, or if it's only projecting out from January to June or February to June. If someone could help me with that, I might be able to give you a better answer as to whether or not we should gamble with pulling 2 teachers out of the budget.
Julie, do you know that answer?
I don't know the answer. I do know that we have a lot of costs that still need to be covered for the virtual academy students that we don't have covered for the spring, that we're going to need to all pull together on, which COVID relief funds may help with.
Marie.
I was not suggesting pulling teachers out, Barb, at all, pulling them on funds out for teachers in any way, shape, or form. I was thinking more about what are those things, like, I know before you said you felt really good about classroom spaces, that you had enough physical spaces, and we didn't need to use any of the COVID funds from 1 and 2 to do a trailer classroom. Those are the things I'm thinking about. Are there any of those things that you had sort of said, probably not, but maybe that's something we need? And like I said about maybe the outdoor classroom, could the foundation for the outdoor classroom that you're talking about, maybe wanting to take off, is that something that we think, will fall into those same funds?
Right. That could certainly fall into the CRF funds if the guidelines are the same, because we did a lot with CRF 1 and 2 with outside spaces. And the other thing that I think we could use, but it's not budgeted, but certainly would be helpful, is reallocating some space. You know, while we're not using the cafeteria, we've, you know, ordered additional barriers and dividers so that we can use that area. But also in the classrooms right now, where we're having such small pods, and the need for some kids to be worked with one-on-one, we're again using dividers and, you know, to try to accommodate that. But we might really want to look at shifting, you know, and building some temporary walls, for instance. That may be something we want to look at. Again, it's so hard to say without really having a chance to go through and try to figure out where we're going to be in just 3 months, never mind 6 months.
And does this budget has the new numbers from Mark that you released today?
Yes.
Yesterday.
Yep.
Too, right?
Yep. It does. And I would be, again, I'm going to come back to it. You know, I think we can cut the 50,000 and work with what we've got to be able to come up with something that will work for our kids. And then, you know, if we get the round 3 of the CRF, then I think we could certainly budget through that. My concern is that, you know, I want to do everything I can to make sure the budget is as lean as possible going in, but really meets our needs. And this is a big ask right now. We have not had a budget increase of 7% in a long time. You know, and that's why I would advocate at this point to take the 50,000 out. And again, it's not going to reduce your budget much, but I think every little bit that you can reduce it helps.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we took that $50,000 out and then keep our fingers crossed that Blue Cross and Blue Shield comes in flat, I mean, you could be looking at closer to $100,000 difference that we would be able to pull from this budget in time before the town is the vote. So I don't know.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, it's something to look at. Again, is, you know, the anticipated receipts, you know, the carryover versus, you know, what we're proposing for continuing on. We, you know, we want to make sure that we're pretty level with that, but it's something Nancy and I can go back to. Nancy, do you have any suggestions on that? Or are you comfortable right now with where we're at?
I don't think we have Nancy, Barb.
You don't.
Oh, I thought we did.
No.
Sorry. I thought somebody said Nancy was on.
I would, if I may, Christy, there's a couple of points. Number one, you picked up on one, health insurance, thanks, because I do think it's prudent to hold at the 8 now, even though I anticipate we'll be able to make some adjustments, and because of the way the vote comes down in Bar Harbor, we'll have that information, or we should, by April. So that's one big piece. And the second piece on the carry forward, we're seeing, and I know Barb would have had this conversation with Nancy, but I think we're going to look to be as cautious as we can with that to avoid that roller coaster effect. But I think there's still an opportunity, or I know there's still an opportunity to come back and revisit that. Barb, did Nancy say anything differently than that?
No, she didn't. It was not an easy session with her today because her computer crashed a few times. So I know that we were looking at all sorts of different things, just making sure numbers were accurate. Yep. But we can revisit that with her.
The other thing too, for the board, you know, we have an amount in there budgeted as a placeholder for negotiated agreements and contract negotiations, but we don't know what that number is going to ultimately be, and hopefully we would do as we get closer to budget time. So that's another piece in there too.
Mark, if that number that we have budgeted for negotiated agreements is too low. Obviously, we are, obligated to cover that. Could you take some of that insurance money and move it to whatever that line item is to cover that difference, or you have to hope that
There's a couple.
higher buffer?
Yeah, it's a good question, Christine. The short answer is, yes, if it's done before the vote, line items can be shifted. That can be done. We hope not to do that, but again, what we've projected in all of our budgets, we hope we'll be able to navigate this next year. But yes, and two things to your question, regardless, whatever is agreed upon will be honored. And so we'll have to adjust accordingly to different line items or parts of the budget.
I know that we am I muted? No. I know we set this up this way because this is how and I'm not at all asking Nancy to do any more work, but it's so hard. I just want to say, like, it would be nice to see a budget where you could look at salary. Total salary is this of your $7 million budget. Total Blue Cross Blue Shield of your $7 million. And I tried, I went through the budget with my calculator and I added each.
You want a pie chart?
Shield square, but it's hard to do that for every item and every department. And
no, but do you want like a pie chart on that? That can be done.
Oh, a pie chart would be nice.
Okay, well, we'll work on. No, seriously, I'm not.
I don't want to create work.
No. Let me first, before I go there, say, because I think there's got to be. Let me ask the question. Okay, I'm not looking to put anything on Nancy's plate, but yeah. I think we can drill down. That's a nice piece too. When you go to, it could be included as a one-pager item.
Right.
Like we're
going. And I know Barb does something similar where she puts all her fixed cost in there, and so then at that point, you can say to the town council, $5 million of the $6 million budget is not something we can futz with, but.
And I could probably pull something together as long as Nancy makes sure we check the math.
Yeah. And my intention is to have those budget sheets, ready again for the town and for the council.
And when is that? So we would go, obviously that
January 28th. It's a Thursday. I put it on the minutes of the agenda, just so you'll know.
Yeah.
Coming right up.
Does anybody else have any questions or concerns about the budget? Bob and Sue.
I am looking, where is that placeholder on the budget?
Okay, for salaries, Robin Sue, it says negotiated agreements, and you'll see it. Let me find right under teacher salaries. You'll see it in many places, but wherever it says salaries, right underneath, you see an amount. And so I think to Christie's question is, Mark, what's that total amount? We could, the budget's broken out in those categories, but we can do an aggregate and say what that placeholder is by just totaling it all as it goes through the budget. So, Barb, you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't at this point. I was just trying to figure out.
Oh, wait, she listed it. No, she listed it in one place under negotiated agreements. So as far as I can tell, and I'll verify, Robin Sue, that total number, that 108,300, that's the placeholder. Okay. And I'll verify with Nancy if there's any other, but that would be the place, and that would be all encompassing.
And
does that include support staff as well?
Oh yeah,
just teachers.
Yeah, no, that includes everybody.
And admin and everything.
Yep, the whole thing. And so again, how do you navigate that? Well, there's different levels, there's different steps, so there's a lot of in that metric. And again, it is just a placeholder, but I'm looking and I'm not seeing it in any other area. So I'll verify with Nancy, but I think does that answer your question, Robinson?
It does. What is that percentage? Like what?
Christine, do you want to take that?
That's confidential.
Okay. guess I could figure it
I
out. Right?
defer, I defer to the board chair.
I mean, it's a percentage that Mark and Nancy put in there, but obviously it's a percentage that we're in the middle of negotiating. So
No, I get that. Yeah.
and it's not like somebody couldn't sit here and add up all the lines and figure it out if they wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of math. It's very complex than to just say, because it involves several different units, several different individuals at certain levels. And, you know, again, we're in the middle of a process right now too.
I'll throw out there in the middle of this, our next meeting, negotiating meeting with the teachers committee will be January 27th. So, and then we haven't yet begun negotiating with our support staff yet. So just, that'll probably will begin in February because we can't put them off much longer. So how do you all feel about voting on this budget? Because we did tell Cornell we would get it to him on the 5th. Do people feel comfortable voting on this budget? Looking like I'm going to take those as yeses.
Do you want to vote on the budget as far as taking out the 50,000? So you'd actually be voting on a $7,152,378 budget.
How do you all feel about that 50,000? Do you want to leave it in or remove it?
Barb, what was that number again, please?
$7,152,378.
Yeah, okay. I just double checking. Thank you.
Yep.
That figure was with it or without it?
That's
That was
without.
Without the 50,
Okay.
that number. The number that you have in the budget, that's the draft, is 7,202,378. And Barb's giving you the number, what it would be without the 50.
I mean, I don't know what it does to the 7.46 or the 7.1.
We could get that.
Probably
out
doesn't
to-
lower it too much.
No, it doesn't. Not a lot, but we can get the updated.
But it does get you under, I think it will get you under the 7%.
That might be good.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
I would lean toward taking it out. I don't know, how do the rest of you feel? Just also my feeling is because that COVID money might be coming, there's still a chance to do those things with the funds that are coming.
That's what
Right.
yeah. I mean, I want to see that stuff done, but I think it's one that we can at least chance looking at the guidelines. I just scanned them again, what they are, even though they're not too detailed. And it looks like the money
And I
can be
think-
spent until September 2022. So
Okay. So yeah. So if that were the case, then I think we'd be in good shape.
And that might actually get it to us sooner than later if we use it with that money.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lost Lily from the meeting, but if that is all the questions everybody has, we can roll right into action items. And she's back. Oh, you're just in time.
Sorry, I lost my internet.
So, did you have any more questions, Lily? We just discussed removing the 50,000 for the outdoor playground equipment from this budget proposal, in hopes that we might be able to use some COVID relief funding for that we'll get next spring. Other than that, do you have any other questions before we? If not, if somebody would like to make a
I
motion,
don't.
I'd take one.
Is this to approve the budget?
Yes. I think you have to say the 7,152,378,000 in the motion.
I will move to approve 7 million. Give me those numbers again.
$7,152,378.
That number. to the 21-22 budget.
I second.
Any further discussion on that? And so I'll go down the roll. Robin Sue, do you approve?
Approve.
Marie,
Approve.
Dwayne,
Approve.
Lily,
Approve.
and I approve as well. So we all approve. Thank you, everybody. I know that's not a number that we're used to looking at, and it's kind of scary, but I think I don't see any other way around it right now. And I still have no public comment. Is there any other business that anyone wants to discuss? Any future agenda items? I'm just going to keep adding that school renovation project because we have got to dive back into that sooner or later. Marie, did you have something?
I was going to make sure you put the school renovation project in.
And then Barb, will we be meeting again, or maybe Mark, maybe it's a board chair meeting. We'll be meeting again with the AOS on Monday.
Yes.
And do we think we'll need to meet like an emergency meeting or anything prior to the end of this 2-week period? Barb, do you think, or do we just communicate by email? And
I'm feeling confident that things are going to go well, and that we're doing what we need to do so we all can be back in school on the 19th. But I think we can do most any of that through email.
Yeah, I would agree.
okay.
And there'll certainly be an update at Monday's AOS meeting. We're assessing daily. If I may, Christy, I'm really sensitive to, the position it places families and students and everyone in. And so I just want folks to know we're not making these decisions in a vacuum, that we're taking the advice from medical experts, working closely with the hospital, our nurses, continue to meet weekly with superintendents, nurses, and the Down East COVID-19 task force. So we'll have a good overview on Monday, and we'll have some numbers. A lot of people are asking about numbers, and this decision was made prior to coming back to school. So really what we're looking at is what the impact is in our communities, and we'll have a better handle on that later this week.
And also I should mention that it's not, it's really Mark's decision whether to close school or to go remote. Mark obviously puts us all in the loop, and he gets input from everybody, but it's not, the school board doesn't have to vote to continue this or come back.
But I thank you, Christy, but I might add, I would never be so presumptuous as to think that, every day we literally have people's lives in the palm of our hand, kids, staff. And so, we're all trying to do the best we can, but at the same time, even though I would never shirk that responsibility, I know if I continued to make poor decisions, I wouldn't have support of community or staff or board. So I don't take that lightly, and I don't make these decisions in a vacuum. I trust my colleagues, appreciate the feedback from communities, appreciate the support of the boards and communities, but it takes a total team to keep this moving forward. And no one, I shouldn't say no one more than me, everybody wants our kids and our staff back in schools. And I just want to give a shout out right now that teachers and kids and people are working hard in schools, but if we want to keep schools open, we can't let our guard down out in the community for any reason. Me, my family, all of us. This is an opportunity I just want to take to say to kids and parents that, the things that we're all doing, we've all been doing since last March, wearing a mask, washing our hands, physical distancing, avoiding groups. We shouldn't be in groups during this 2-week period. That's not good. We need to discourage that. We need parents' help. I get that kids want to be together, and it's killing us not to be together, but use social media, use those tools, because if we want our schools open, we've got to keep doing, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but we got to keep charging forward. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and we all got to do it together. And I don't want anybody stigmatized by that. Part of the reason was, nobody goes out there to try to do anything wrong, and nobody should feel shamed. This virus knows no boundaries. We got to just work together and be a community and stay together. So I just can't emphasize enough that this 2-week period, what we do out of school and what we do when people aren't around looking, that's what's really important. And that's what's going to keep our businesses open, our schools open, our communities open. And we know the right things to do. We just got to keep doing them. It's hard work, but I know we can do it. Thank you.
Okay, so our next meeting then for Bar Harbor will be Monday, February 1st at 4:30. Assuming it will be a Zoom meeting, but I will see you all next Monday. But actually, we're not leaving because we're going into executive session. If somebody wants to make a motion, we can let I guess Julie go. I don't know, Julie probably, and Heather and Barb. I'm not sure, but.
I think if you'd like, Christie, and if it's the will of the board, I think it would be appropriate to have a Barb there. But there's no need to have Heather and Julie be there, I don't believe.
Well, I will say that it's my daughter's 15th birthday.
Oh, and so-
I, as much as I love spending time with you, I will go downstairs and join.
Okay.
Happy
Wish her happy
birthday.
birthday.
I know 15. Oh my gosh. Okay, see everybody later.
Happy New Year, everybody.
All right, Julie, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056E.
I second.
And then I'll go around again. All in favor, Robin Sue,
Approve.
Marie. I saw your lips move, but
Approve.
Dwayne,
Approve.